Now, when does submission happen? Submission happens when a woman feels like she can trust you. Submission doesn't happen because you're a man with a penis and a nutsack and you show up. Submission happens when a woman feels like she's safe with you, when she feels emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically safe with you. When she feels those things, she is willing to let you lead. A woman who won't submit is not a woman's fault.
It's because the man has not created the environment for her to feel comfortable to submit.
Yes. And there's an unqualified leader. Every woman wants to submit. Trust me. It's in our nature. It's in our nature, literally in our DNA, to be caregivers, to be those emotional nurturers. Right.
Yeah. Hey, these chicks are right, man. These chicks are right. At the risk of sounding like a panderer, these chicks are right. But let me explain it further from a man's standpoint so you can really understand what I'm saying. This is not about taking the side of women or anything like that. But we must understand that as men, it is up to us to lead the situation. It is up to us to have our direction already in place. Our direction is what's going to build a certain level of consistency, and that consistency will build trust in a woman so she's able to submit. You understand? Like she said, submission doesn't happen until a woman feels safe. Submission doesn't happen until a woman feels secure. OK, now, where does that security come from? That security comes from a man who understands his masculine identity. So the truth is that submission doesn't happen until a man submits to the highest version of himself. OK, so it's kind of like the hierarchy that we talk about from time to time, right? Where there's God, man, woman, child. Right. So the man submits to God. The woman submits to the man. But see, the idea of God here on earth in this reality is the highest version of ourselves as men. Right? Because we provide a certain level of order, protection, confidence. We cover women and children. So in a lot of ways, we are the closest thing to God in this reality. So when we say submit to God, what we also mean is to submit to the idea of the highest version of ourselves as men. So what does the highest version of ourselves as men look like? It looks like a man who knows his masculine identity. It looks like a man who understands his direction. It looks like a man who has a program and a lifestyle that his daily practices allow him to get closer and closer to the highest version of himself, regardless of what that looks like. That's going to look different to every man, right? That's going to look different to every man because every man has different goals they're trying to achieve. Every man has a different idea of what his masculine identity looks like. Everybody has a different idea of what the highest version of themselves looks like, right? And so when we understand, when we know what that is and we are working towards it on a day-to-day basis, we develop a certain level of consistency based on how we visualize what we need to do to get to the highest version of ourselves. So if that means we got to go to the gym, if that means we got to spend a bunch of hours working on business, if that means we got to work on our craft or whatever we're working on, whatever we're doing, it's going to build a certain level of consistency, a level of consistency of character, a consistency in our program and our lifestyle. And that consistency is what builds trust in the woman. Right. And so the woman, they see a level of consistency about us and they start to trust in that consistency. And also that consistency shows itself to become leadership. OK, so when the woman starts to trust in the leadership of that man, that's when she starts to relax. That's when she starts to understand who she is in reference to that man and understands, you know, like she said, they have certain things in their DNA that makes them nurturers, and not only nurturers, but enhancers. Right. So we give a woman a small cell and she gives us a baby. We give a woman groceries. She gives us a meal. We give a woman a house. She makes us a home. Any woman that you are dealing with, when you give her something, she should be able to enhance it and return it to you tenfold, so to speak. OK, because a woman is a nurturer. A woman is an enhancer. A woman should be an asset to a man's journey and his masculine identity, which brings me to a very important point. Submission from a woman to a man should not just be a general requirement. OK, it has to also cover the idea of compatibility. Do you understand? Because it's one thing for a woman to submit to a man, but if he is not the right man and she is not the right woman, they won't be compatible. And we would just be fulfilling generic requirements that really won't take the union to where it needs to be. So what do I mean? So that means a man has to know his masculine identity. He has to understand and know what the highest version of himself looks like. And he has to understand the consistency in the dynamics of his journey, meaning what he does on a day-to-day basis that brings him to the highest version of himself. He has to know what that is. And by knowing what that is, he will also know what type of woman he needs to include in his life that can nurture and enhance his journey and be an asset to him. OK, so there needs to be a level of compatibility. Right. So he knows who he is. He knows what type of woman he needs to be an enhancement to him. And so the woman doesn't only submit because it's required for her to submit, but she also submits because she is competent in the type of submission that that man needs. You understand? So the submission is not only a requirement, but it's also an effective strategy to help that man to get to where he's really trying to go, to get to the highest version of himself. So it's very important that a woman not only submits, but she submits competently. So she understands how she can truly help that man become the highest version of himself. Now, she will also understand the value of his journey. She will also understand how the highest version of him will benefit her as a woman. You understand? So the highest version of that man, more than likely, is somebody that's successful, somebody that's rich, and somebody that can provide resources for years to come, not only for her, but for their offspring and for generations to come. And that's where the highest version lies. You understand? So it's not just about submission. It's also about compatibility. OK, and so the man that knows who he is, the man that understands the consistency of his journey and the consistency of his masculine identity, he will be able to lead and lead on a consistent basis to build trust in that woman. So she submits willingly and competently in order to help him on his journey to the highest version of himself. All right. So it's your boy, My Cunningham. Hope you got something from this video. Hope you're having a great day. Be good to yourself. Be grateful. And remember, the truth is inside you. Peace.